Hello and welcome everyone. I'll be discussing TPE 5, which is Assessing Student Learning. All of us are embarking on our journey to become the best teacher we can be. And throughout each of these TPE presentations, we are basically asking ourselves the same question. What are we held responsible for as teachers? For this particular TPE, it comes down to what is written in blue here. We're responsible for developing, implementing, and using a range of effective classroom assessments to inform and improve instructional design and practice. Basically, we're responsible for being the problem solvers for every student's academic journey, making sure no one falls through the cracks and no one's left behind. The article I referenced throughout this presentation is located in blue in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, and it's titled Perspectives and Practices of Elementary Teachers Using an Internet-Based Formative Assessment Tool, the Case of Assessing Mathematic Concepts. I have also listed the 3 elements from TPE 5 that I'll be referencing throughout this presentation. They are number 2, collect and analyze assessment data from multiple measures and sources to plan and modify instruction and document students' learning over time. Number 4, use technology as appropriate to support assessment administration, conduct data analysis, and communicate learning outcomes to students and families. And lastly, number 5, use assessment information in a timely manner to assist students and families in understanding student progress in meeting learning goals. This article was a research study on an internet-based formative assessment called AMC, Anywhere, created by Kathy Richardson. As you can see below, AMC stands for Assessing Mathematics Concepts Anywhere. Her goal was to ease teachers' ability to conduct formative assessments on an everyday basis, as well as provide easily translatable data teachers could use for individual student needs. This assessment focused on primary students' understanding of number sense, which is a branch of math concepts at the elementary level. It examined 148 teachers' perspectives during their participation in this year-long program. It included training on how to implement this technological assessment in their classroom and how to interpret and use the data easily and timely through their scoring diagnostics listed here. As you can see, there is a scoring rubric also in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. They are highlighted in blue. If a student were to receive an A in their assessment record, that meant that they are able to apply that information without any trouble. You've done a good job. They're good to go. If they got a P plus, a P, or a P minus, that meant that they needed some additional practice. This could be independent practice that you assign to them. It could be additional guided practice if you want to go through that with them. But overall, with a little bit more practice and routine, they should be good as well. If a student were to get an I, that stands for instruction, meaning they need you, the teacher, to go back and review some of that instruction that you previously gave them. Maybe provide a different spin or maybe a different style so that way they can get the concepts that they need to progress. And lastly, if a student got an N on their assessment report, that meant that they needed to build their prior skills. So that meant you as the teacher need to go back and fill in those gaps that they previously had to make sure that they are on track with progressing as they should. So, why is this relevant to you, you may ask? Researchers have found that when teachers integrate formative assessment practices into their daily instruction, they have seen improvements in the frequency of appropriate activities and an increase in student achievement. However, studies have documented that teachers struggle to consistently collect and use formative assessment data. So, why aren't formative assessments happening in the classroom? This study had teachers take a pre- and post-survey about their previous challenges implementing formative assessments and how the AMC Anywhere program helped to solve them. Looking at most of the concerns here, the general idea is that teaching is changing and differentiation takes time and resources. Time and resources these teachers are claiming they do not have. So from the pre-program Teachers' Frustrations, you can see that teachers felt they needed to stop teaching in order to accurately assess, that instructional time must be devoted to covering standards in order to have time to get through everything within the academic year, that more resources were available for summative assessments, maybe through the teacher model there are some quizzes and tests already ready to go, but also that teachers found that they had limited time to create resources for formative assessment. This really was up to the teacher and what was successful for them and what was working. So, was AMC Anywhere able to fulfill our teaching performance expectation number 5? For element number 2, which can be summarized as collecting assessment data to modify instruction, teachers conveyed the following themes after completing the program: that AMC Anywhere made it easy to make instructional decisions for each student, that you can easily pinpoint the understanding of individual students, and that it's easy to allow the data to drive the lesson and provide differentiation. In regards to element 4, which can be summarized as using technology to support assessments and gather data, teachers found that digital technologies offer additional resources to address teachers' concerns, that there is the ability to collect precise data that helps gear instruction, and that there was a definite shift in more student-centered pedagogies occurring. And lastly, in regards to element 5 from TPE 5, which can be summarized as using assessment data in a timely manner for students and families to see progress, AMC Anywhere showed where each student was struggling, helped report progress for RTI paperwork, which stands for Response to Intervention. It gave teachers more tangible data to share with parents in their parent-teacher conferences, and it even allowed for teachers amongst grades to see who had success with a particular topic. So not only were teachers able to see students' information, they were able to compare their students' results amongst themselves. They were able to see if maybe it would prove more beneficial for one teacher to tackle a particular topic due to a high success rate. I remember from my elementary school, we had a homeroom, and that's where we did ELD, language arts, science, arts and crafts. But then we would shuffle to another teacher for math and another for history. Now knowing this information and some of the results from this study, maybe they were incorporating a similar method. So how does this study apply to us? As first-year teachers, it can be really overwhelming with the amount of information that's thrown at us and also our overwhelming feelings of being both nervous and also excited. So when it comes to classroom applications, I've tried to simplify as many strategies as I've heard into a 3-point checklist with also 2 visuals you can take with you to use from this presentation in your future classroom. The first thing to remember is don't be afraid to ask your principal or another supporting teacher or even an upper or lower grade teacher for some assessment ideas that have worked well for them. Also, something to note is that this study came out in 2016, and within 3 years and even after completing some observation hours, I have already seen a lot of similar methods when it comes to differentiation methods in the classroom. Although the same tangible data may not be available like with this AMC Anywhere program, these tools are available to track progress and engage students, so utilize them. Next, incorporate assessments in all lessons. Unfortunately, when you're working with small children, getting off task or running out of time are more common occurrences than you would think. So do not leave your assessments up to chance or even coin the expression, if I have time today, I'll try to get the assessment in. Make sure, as you are planning your lessons, you incorporate room for formative assessments, so you never leave it up to chance, but are always improving off your daily feedback that you're collecting. And lastly, don't just collect the data, but apply it. Through my observation hours, my cooperating teacher gave me a helpful tip of keeping a weekly tracker roster on a clipboard. This had the days of the week on top and the student names to the left. Her first couple years teaching, she would take her clipboard tracker and make her observations by walking around the classroom. This allowed her to organize and remember where each student was, while also giving her a tangible reminder to get those assessments done. The biggest thing to remember, however, is to apply your learnings. Don't just let those trackers stack up week after week. Address them at the end of every school day so you know where to start the next day's lesson. Now I wanted to kind of go into some of the visuals that we have here. I've provided 2 charts. The first one is over to your left, and that is formative assessment. Take your pick. This gives you 10 formative assessment ideas that you can incorporate into your classroom. I'm going to point out a couple that I really like. The first one is an exit and admit ticket, where you can really see where your students or what your students already know going into a lesson and what they've grasped after a lesson and if it's where you want them to be. Another one is the four corners strategy. I really like this one because you can probe a question or maybe a discussion topic and use the four corners of your classroom to label them as yes, I agree, or no, I don't agree, or I'm in the middle, I'm not sure. And then lastly, I really liked the bottom one there. It says that for the learning logs, it really gives the students an opportunity to write down any questions they may still have and also allows them to explore those questions on a deeper level if you have enough time. The other thing I wanted to go ahead and cover was to our right, and that is, again, don't feel alone if you feel overwhelmed your first year as a teacher. Stick to this four-step process, and that is instruct, use that lesson plan that you wrote down and you're proud of, assess, make sure you're looking at your students' body language. How are they liking the material? Do they feel confident? Do they have a puzzled look on their face? Reflect in your own instruction and your own lesson plan, but also your students' work. And then adapt. Go around and through your assessments, make sure you're adapting your lesson plan for the following day. Next, we have our discussion questions, and they're all listed below, so there's no need for me to go over them. But thank you guys so much for making this presentation so fun and for listening, and happy assessing, everyone.